So this is PubMed. Be a PubMed Pro. PubMed is a platform from the U.S. National Library of Medicine. Very, very valuable resource if you're in the sciences or the health professions. And I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. And let me get chat set up here. So I welcome you to unmute yourself to ask questions, raise your hand, or to just type in the chat, and I'll try to address your questions. So I'm Carrie Price. I am the Research Impact and Health Professions Librarian at the Cook Library of Towson University, and I love PubMed. It's probably the place I start the most for everything. If for any reason you can't see my screen that says Be a PubMed Pro, please let me know. And today we're going to break it up into two parts. We're going to talk about navigating PubMed. So what is PubMed? How can you access it? Creating an account, which adds some value to your user experience. Using subject headings, finding journals and finding out more about those journals. Using the single citation matcher to look up a citation that you remember some things, but not everything about. And we will also look at writing some search queries, looking at the search details, understanding field tags, using proximity searching, looking for authors, saving your searches, and setting up alerts. And I'm going to turn on captions here too. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Okay, so captions are running. So the first thing we'll talk about is navigating PubMed. What is PubMed? The short story is it is the premier resource for biomedical literature, and it's widely available all over the world, no matter where you are, because it's a website from the National Library of Medicine. It's maintained by the National Library of Medicine and the National Centers for Biotechnology Information at the U.S. National Institutes of Health. The longer story is from PubMed itself. It contains over 36 million citations and abstracts of biomedical literature. So keep that in mind. It's not the full text, it's the citations for literature. And it contains a couple of different things. It has evolved over time from 1879, where we had a print index of bibliographic literature citations, to 1963, when it became Medlars. 71, it became Medlars Online. And in 1997, it became PubMed, which was freely available to everyone. So it has evolved over time, and you'll notice then that it has quite a bit of historical literature in it as well. So it is a database of citations from journals, and it contains these main three contents, as well as a little bit of miscellaneous content. So it contains Medline, which is a database of citations from journals that have been indexed for Medline. And these journals typically go through a pretty rigorous process in order to be indexed in Medline. So these are high quality, for the most part, journals. It also contains PubMed Central, which is a full text archive of open access content. And a lot of this content is there because it needs to meet a public access policy or mandate. So that's how things show up in PubMed Central, and the indexing process for journals that appear in PubMed Central is a little bit less rigorous. Additionally, there are books in the NCBI bookshelf. You'll find books, reports, smaller databases like LactMed, which is a lactation database for drugs, and then some additional preprints. So since COVID in 2020, they started adding some preprints that kind of don't fall into Medline, PMC, or the NCBI bookshelf. At least that's my understanding. So let's talk about accessing PubMed. The website is here, and I'm just going to go over to my website here, drop it in the chat. And also, if you are a Cook Library affiliate, it is available through our A to Z databases list. And so if you are a Towson Library affiliate, I'm going to recommend that you come in through this option, because it's going to link you up to our catalog and allow you to find full text records. So if we search for PubMed in our A to Z database list, which has over 400 and some databases, you'll see a couple of different options. And just keep in mind that the one that you want is PubMed. PubMed Central is only part of PubMed. Medline is our library vendor database for Medline on EBSCO. And I always laugh that the government, the US government, is naming all their products very similar names, because we have PubMed, PubMed Central, Medline, and Medline Plus, none of which are the same thing. So make sure you go into PubMed, and then you can log in. And then when you search, you will see that yellow Find It button that's going to get you to the full text. Now, if you are not a Towson University affiliate, you can just access it on the web. And I'm going to advise you to create an account with PubMed. It's a free service. You don't have to do much of anything or pay for it, but it's going to allow you to save searches, create alerts, customize the way that you search. And I've put screenshots all throughout this PowerPoint show because I'd say once every 60 or so days, you'll go to the PubMed website and it will say service unavailable, and you won't be able to see PubMed. So just to be on the safe side, I've captured screenshots, but what I'll do today is go over to the web and hopefully show you in real time. So you can go up to log in the top right-hand corner, and you're going to have some different options. I use ORCID. If you don't use ORCID, which is Open Researcher and Contributor ID, another free service for researchers, you can choose other options. And then you can sign in with your Google account, your Microsoft account. You can create a NCBI account if you're doing any sorts of grant applications for NIH or other organizations. And then you can just log in once you've established that. So I'm going to log in. And this is the part that sometimes fails depending on the day. So we'll see. It worked. So the value of having a login is that you can kind of create a dashboard for yourself. You can access it by going to the top right-hand corner, going to your dashboard, and here you'll be able to capture the articles that you've co-authored. Let's make this a little bigger. You'll be able to create alerts for things that you want to follow. It can be journals, it can be topics, it can be authors. You can manage those searches. You can create collections for yourself or for your team. And you can create a science CV, which is a kind of a CV for anything you'll need to, if you decide to apply for any grants through NIH, you'll need to use the Science CV tool. You can also access your site preferences, and I'll just show you my favorite thing here, which is highlighting. So when you search with search terms, you'll be able to highlight your search terms in a color that you like, and then it'll be much easier to go through all of your search records because your search terms will be standing out. So let's see, where are we here? So creating an account is a very valuable thing to do. I recommend that you do it. It's right up there, my screenshots. We're going to talk about subject headings. This is one of the strengths of PubMed. It is unique among other platforms. It has some features that others don't, and it's kind of both a platform and a database in that it contains its own records and also contains records from Medline, PMC, and NCBI Bookshelf. We're going to talk about mesh medical subject headings, which if you are a social media user, I'll say TikTok, Twitter, and you have seen hashtags, they're kind of like that. So we'll go back out to PubMed, and we'll go back out to the homepage of PubMed. And let's say you've done some searching here in the main search box, but you're having trouble finding what you really want. You can explore, and it is indeed under Explore, the mesh database. So these are medical subject headings that get indexed to literature of that topic. It looks like this. And here you can look for tags or headings. I'm going to look for exercise therapy. And so it gives us two options, exercise therapy, maybe aquatic therapy. Let's take a look at exercise therapy. It's going to show you the definition of exercise therapy. Sometimes you'll see a date, and that tells you that that was the year it was introduced. Remember, it's been online for a very long time. And if you see a year, that means it's a newer medical subject heading. You can search with subheadings, so exercise therapy, nursing, or exercise therapy, statistics, and numerical data. And then you can see some entry terms here, which is terms that they are suggesting that you might use as synonyms for exercise therapy. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's exercise therapy, exercise therapies, remedial exercise, and the singular and the plural. That's important too. You can say see also, so it's also related to sports. It's also related to exercise and exercise movement techniques. And then this is the hierarchy. So exercise therapy is on a branch of a tree where rehabilitation is broader, aftercare is broader, continuity of patient care is broader, but these are narrower terms. So if you did want to get more specific, maybe you're really only interested in resistance training. So exploring a medical subject heading is not only going to help you find literature that's been indexed with that heading, but also understand a little bit more about that topic. If you scroll up, there's the National Library of Medicine mesh browser. And if you go into the mesh browser, it's going to show you how this term is related to others. So it was established in 1966. These are the subheadings that you can use with it, and it falls on these trees. So this is pretty technical, but it does help you get an idea of how things are organized. So we'll leave that there. If we wanted to find all the literature, I'll clear this, I was playing with it earlier. If we wanted to find all the literature indexed with exercise therapy, and keep in mind that's 36 million records in this database, we can add to Search Builder. It comes over in quotes with the mesh tag attached. So it's saying search this where it is a subject heading, and we'll say search PubMed. And in a database of 36 million records, 64,028 of them are indexed with exercise therapy. And the way that we know, we can look at any one of these articles and we can scroll down past the abstract and see that it's been indexed not only with exercise therapy, but with gardening, exercise, and activities of daily living. So if you're just starting to put together a search, this can be a good way to see how concepts are related and what other terms you might use. So the mesh database is an actual website. Let's see if I can grab that. Put that in the chat, and you're welcome to explore based on topics that interest you. So remember that you're not searching the literature, you're searching for index terms, subject headings. Okay. The next thing you can do in PubMed is find journals and understand if those journals are indexed for Medline or not. So remember, Medline's a bit more rigorous than PubMed Central. And you can also find out more about the journal. So let's do that. We'll go back to the home page of PubMed, which I usually do by clicking on the logo. And under Explore, we'll go to Journals. And we will look for the Journal of Public Health. Now, I wasn't super specific on a name here, so I'm getting a lot of different, I'm getting a lot of options here. Let's see. Let's look for journals currently indexed in Medline. Do that. And we can type our search terms again. That's weird. It worked differently when I tried it right before our session, but we'll just pick one. The Lancet Public Health. So we'll look for that. So it gives you a record, and this record's going to help you understand this journal a little bit more. The Lancet Public Health started in 2016. It's published monthly. It's online, and it gives you a link to the journal's website. 99.9% of the time this works. And this is where you can find out more about the journal, aims and scope, directions for authors, and make sure it's a place where you would want to publish. Miranda, our open access and scholarly communications, I got your title very wrong, sorry. Librarian is here, so I'll just point out that there are, it shows you the article processing charges right here on the front page. And you can see that it's currently indexed for Medline. So if this mattered to you, you would be able to see it. If it's not currently indexed for Medline, I would maybe do a little bit more investigation on that journal. You can search on this journal. So we can add to search builder here, Lancet Public Health Journal. We'll search our 36 million records. And there are 1,167 records, you'll notice, since 2016. And the journal is Lancet Public Health. You could add additional terms here to narrow it down even further. So maybe it's diabetes that you're interested in, and you can continue to search here in the top. Let's get back to the home page. Any questions so far? We're hitting on a lot of little things that you can do with PubMed that are going to make you a PubMed Pro, but I'll stop and ask if there are any questions. Okay, so you can look for journals. I captured those screenshots just in case PubMed was down today. And you can find out more about the journal here. Now, sometimes you will have read a journal article and you'll say to yourself, gosh, I wish I could find that again, but I just can't find it anywhere. And you've tried Google Scholar, you've tried Google, you've tried a lot of things. Let me show you one of PubMed's little tricks that may help. It's called the Single Citation Matcher. And again, we'll go here. It lives down in the middle of the page under Find. You can go to the Single Citation Matcher and you can say to yourself, well, I think it was in the journal called Gerontologist. And I think it was around 2020. And I think it had to do with aging. Oops, wrong field. You check your fields. I put it in the title. Aging. And so I'll click search. And we get 24 results, which is not too many results to go through and maybe find that journal article that I remembered. So the journal Single Citation Matcher is under Find on the home page. Right here. And it's very useful because a lot of times you'll remember just a little bit, just enough to find that record. And I see a question in the chat, so let me take a look. I often see 2 or 3 hierarchies when using the mesh database. Are the terms provided under these hierarchies always the same? That's when a medical subject heading may show up on several different branches. So you'll see it on different branches if it appears there. Let's just see humans. Oh no, sorry, that's not a good example. Let's look at exercise therapy. So when you search with this term, you're only searching this term and nothing else. And if you wanted to capture results on exercise therapies, you would have to enter that as a keyword. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But this is showing up on 2 different trees, under rehabilitation and then under physical therapy modalities. It can be hard to make sense of. So that's kind of navigating around PubMed. We talked about creating an account, which is a free service. It's going to allow you to customize your search. It's going to allow you to create search alerts, which we're going to talk about next. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's talk about building a robust search in PubMed. There are 3 main ways to search. You can use the main search bar, you can use advanced search, and you can also use the search builder that we've seen a little bit already that shows up on the right side of the medical subject heading record and also of the journal record. So that's this PubMed search builder. So we could search over here, we can search PubMed. And as Krishna noted, if we wanted to see the word exercise therapies, we'd need to continue the search using all of our best search practices, which is using or to separate synonyms and putting phrases in quotes. So now, if we click search, because we added a keyword, we should see some additional results. And in fact, we do. We'll go back to the home page. And I just want to enter a search. Let's say I'm looking for some literature on apnea. Does apnea cause sleepwalking? And I'm going to click search. So think of this as Googleability. They want you to search it the way that you search Google. We'll click search. And we get some records. And see, I'm logged in, so I'm seeing my terms highlighted, which helps me a lot. But what's really happening behind the scenes is not what you think. So let me show you the search details. We'll go into advanced and we'll see our search history here. Now to see the details, we'll click on the chevron, which expands our search and shows us that it did not search just apnea caused sleepwalking. It searched apnea as a medical subject heading and apnea and apneas as keywords with the British spelling, which I think is pretty fascinating here. It searched for cause, etiology as the medical subheading, sorry. And then in addition to sleepwalker, it searched somnambulism. So that's called automatic term mapping. And sometimes it can be very, very good. If you enter your search, and the example I have in the slides is COVID. If you enter your search here, COVID and let's say COVID and diabetes. And then we go into advanced and we scroll down and look at our details. You can see it did not just search COVID. It searched SARS-CoV-2, COVID, and COVID-19. And the same for diabetes. So it's doing some automatic term mapping there behind the scenes. The other way that you can search if you decide to bypass this Google bar is to go into advanced. And here you get some ways to customize your search. So you may search for author. You could search for mesh, medical subject heading, publication type, a review, a randomized controlled trial. In fact, let's try that. And that's not enough, right? We're not done yet. So we'll click on add. And our search came down here to the bottom. And now we're going to look for title abstract, cystic fibrosis. And we're going to say and, that's our default. And that's our search now. And we'll click search. And so, let's see here. Are these trials? Sometimes it's hard to tell from the title. Let's look at one. And we'll scroll down. It is in fact a randomized controlled trial. And it's been indexed with cystic fibrosis. So that's a different way to search, is to bypass the main bar on the main page and go directly into advanced, where you have some autonomy over how you search. And every time you click add, it's going to come down here and create your search string. Now, the other great thing about this is, let's say you needed to capture your literature search, or you we're very, very busy and you need it to walk away and come back later, you can download your search and it's going to give you a spreadsheet. Let's see what that looks like. So this is my search history so far today. If you make it larger, you'll see that you can capture your search terms. Then these are completely reproducible. You could copy this and paste it again tomorrow, and you'll get essentially the same results plus anything that's been added. So PubMed does update daily. And then we'll go back to the PubMed search builder. We'll go back to PubMed. So we searched from the main box. We searched from advanced. And you can also search from the mesh database. And you can build multiple concepts. So you've seen that we've done a couple of different searches today, and they all get captured here in our history. If we wanted to combine, gosh, I haven't done anything very combinable here. Let's look for a randomized controlled trial on cystic fibrosis and exercise therapy. So I'm going to click on the ellipses. I get the option to add with and or not. We'll add with and here's my search string, randomized controlled trial and cystic fibrosis and exercise therapy. We'll click search. We should get something. We got 32 results. So you can combine your searches in advanced, which is very helpful. Okay, so we talked about searching. Main, search details, advanced search, the search builder, and from the medical subject heading record. Now I want to talk about field tags. They are really fun to use once you understand them and get a little bit of practice. So the field tag guide can be found in the Learn section. We'll go to PubMed again, homepage. Down here under Learn, there is the FAQ and user guide. And you can scroll down, but notice that it is a very, very long user guide. So what I usually do is look for a field tag that I know. And then here we get our list of field tags that we can use in PubMed. And you can use these for so many things. And I'll show you just a few examples. And if you click on any one, you're going to see exactly what fields are being searched. So title abstract searches words and numbers in the citation's title, collection title, abstract, other abstract, and author supplied keywords. So let me show you some of my favorite uses for field tags, and we're going to go back. So if you're looking for something very specific, let's say speech therapy, you can use the TI field tag. So that's going to search in the title. You can and that with something else, and you'll probably get some very, very specific results. So we're not searching with subject headings any longer. We got exactly one result. So that's very specific. You can broaden that out by changing the field tag to title and abstract. Let's see if that makes a difference. We got 89 results because now we're searching for speech therapy and autism in the title and abstract of the record. And that's the data that you see here on this page. This is what we're searching. There's no other data being searched. Other ways that you can use field tags are to look up authors. So you could say, let's see, I'm trying to think of somebody. Let's look up FAUCI A, and the field tag is author, AU. So we can try that. And we get 1,135 results. But we want the Fauci author who works at NIH. So maybe we do NIH. And then affiliation is AD. I don't know why affiliation is AD, but affiliation is AD. And if we do that, it's going to narrow it down to 195 results. So you can do this with yourself. I do this often when I'm trying to find new publications from myself. You could do your last name and first initial, and then your affiliation. And that's a way that you can identify records that are yours. You can also look for first authors and last authors. So in the sciences, this often has meaning that the last author is the senior author and the first author did a lot of the work. So let's look for instances where there is a Dr. Needham. And then the field tag we would use is last AU. Last AU, that's last author. And so now we're getting all of the articles where other Needhams are last author. And you can make that even more specific by adding an initial. You could look for a first author. Like, let's say you remember an article and you remember that Dr. Chung was a first author. You're going to use 1AU. And here we get our results. So last author, first author, affiliation, very helpful ways to look things up in PubMed. And for example, if you did find the person you were looking for, let's look for this person, you get sort of a little snapshot on the left of this person, unless it does not disambiguate, unfortunately. So if there are multiple people with these exact same initials, you're going to get all of them. But you do get a little bit of a snapshot here. Let's go back to the PubMed main page, and I'm just going to look for occupational therapy and stroke. So you can do a semi-complex search right here in the main bar. And I want to show you some of the valuable things you'll find in PubMed, which are these filters on the left. So as long as you're affiliated with an institution, you do not need to look for free full text. That is for people who do not have access to PDFs through some means. And so that would limit it automatically to probably PMC, PubMed Central. So you don't need to check that. You can limit for article type. So let's say you were planning on writing a systematic review on occupational therapy and stroke, but you wanted to see if anyone else has recently published an article on occupational therapy and stroke. So we'll come down here and we'll limit to systematic review. And we see 237. And you can sort in a number of ways. I like most recent. Sometimes best match works. It really depends. And there are other limits here that are great. So you can look at publication date. You could limit to humans. I really don't think you need to most of the time. You can limit to just Medline content, English, and under additional filters, you're going to find age groups, which is really useful. So maybe you're interested in this in 45 plus. You're going to click on these so that they show up, and then you can click on them to filter your results. So it's a two-step process. You need to make sure they appear, and then you need to select them. So now we're down to 19 records. Let's go into one of the records. And because I've come in through the Towson University Cook Library website, I see our yellow Find It button over here on the right. If you're affiliated with another institution, you should see perhaps your own Find It button, and you're also going to see options for accessing full text. You're also going to see a link to the journal page, journal level page, which is here, where you can then hopefully view the PDF without having to pay for it. And if it does ask you to pay, remember that you can use Interlibrary Loan. We'll go back to the record here. You can also check out the author's affiliations right here on this home page. And as all of our students love to do, there's a citation generator. So over here on the right, you can click Cite, and then you get to choose. It defaults to NLM, but if you choose APA a couple of times in a row, then that's going to become your default. When you do copy that citation, it's usually a little bit wrong. So just make sure you check it against a correct example, because I see that the title needs to be capitalized here. So make sure you double check. Let's keep going down. And some of the other really cool things about searching in PubMed is that it's going to show you similar articles. So these articles may not be related to this article in any way as far as citation mapping goes, but they are similar in that they have similar keywords and have similar topics. So it's a good way to identify additional articles. You can also see what this article has been cited by. So these articles have cited our original article. And then you can go to see all cited by. So that's a good way to identify more. And sometimes you'll even see a reference list. Not always. And also these things show up over here on the right. So you can navigate here on the right. And then we'll go back. And let's see where we are in the slides. I've kept you in PubMed for a little while. I just want to make sure we cover everything. Looking at field tags, looking for authors. We'll talk about saving your searches, setting up alerts, and proximity searching. So let's do that next. In 2023 and early this year, PubMed finally, after years of people begging them, decided to release proximity searching. So that is when you can search for two words that are close to each other, but not necessarily a phrase. So let's see. Let's look up aerobic training. And in order to do proximity searching, you'll need to use the field tag either TI or TIAB, so title or title abstract. We'll do TIAB, so these words need to show up in the title or the abstract. And then to do proximity searching, we'll do colon, tilde, and then the number of words that these are acceptable to be spaced apart. So if we wanted to find these words within 4 words of each other, we could say aerobic training 4. You can go broader, aerobic training 6, aerobic training 3. Let's do 4, and then we'll close our field tag and we'll click search. And so here you'll see that it's not showing up as a phrase, but it is showing up when they are within 4 words of each other. And the reason that you don't always see it showing up like this in the title is because it's going to show you your search terms no matter what. But somewhere here we should see aerobic and training within 4 words of each other. And you can kind of play around with where this could be useful. COVID, pandemic, we'll do title this time. And here it kind of accounts for those variations on COVID, COVID-19, and more. So you get some wiggle room there. Does anybody in class have a topic that they're very interested in, or a journal that they're very interested in? I'd be happy to hear about it.
Carrie?
Yes.
This is Sean. I'm currently, I think I mentioned to you, trying to complete a thesis for the Navy on opioids. And my topic of interest is legal settlements thus far and their influence on the prevention and treatment.
Okay. So PubMed may not be your best bet, but it certainly is going to have something. You may want to check out some legal databases as well, like Nexus, Uni. So you're welcome to reach out to me after class. But we could do, we can do a search, opioid epidemic, legal settlements. Let's try that. And another way you can search in PubMed, I want settlement or settlements. I'm going to put a star and I'll get either one. We'll click search. Okay, we got 4. Let's clean this up a little bit and then we're going to create an alert. We're going to say legal or litigation or settlement. So we're searching for opioid and epidemic. If you don't specify, the default is and and legal or litigation or settlement. We'll search. All right, 1,489 results. Now, because I'm logged in and I want to stay up to date on this research for your theoretical thesis, we'll say create alert, and we'll create an alert. Here you can say, you can name it whatever you want, opioid thesis articles. This is your search. We just tested it, so we don't need to test it again. Would you like email updates of the new search results? You can say yes. And then you can choose when they come. Monthly. I like to do weekly, and I like to do Mondays. That way I start my Monday off with some new literature. You can choose the summary, which is just going to show you the citation. You can choose to see the abstract. And you can get it in HTML or rich text. And send even when there aren't any new results. You'll get an email basically that says no new results, and then you can save. Now you have a new alert. And how do you know you have a new alert? When you go to your dashboard, up here in the top, here's my new alert. Now, if I said to myself, oh, I forgot to use court cases or something, you can come back to the wheel. You can say, oh, I meant to use court case. Court case. Let's do that. We'll test our search terms. It found us a couple more, and then we can just save it again. And if you get tired of getting these emails, you just come back in here and you either say no thanks or you say delete. And another way that this is useful is, let's go back to the home page. If you're following a journal, let's say JAMA, TA is the journal field tag. I don't know why. Again, these have evolved over many, many decades. Everything here is published in our latest issue of JAMA. You can create an alert. And I think JAMA is published monthly, so you could leave it on monthly, the first Monday of the month. And that way you're effectively getting a table of contents alert from a journal that you follow. And that can be another really useful thing to do with alerts. You can also just save your search and not get an alert. You can do that, and then you can come back in and check your searches from time to time to see if anything is new. Go back to the home page, and we have a question. Could you show how to copy mesh headings into a table in Word for a systematic review search strategy? Absolutely, you know me well. I'm going to open up a Word document. What's our topic today? We'll stick with cystic fibrosis and exercise. So I'm going to say cystic fibrosis. This is the heading that I want. And I'm going to add to search builder. Now I'm going to look at these entry terms. Sure. Have a great day. We're going to look at the entry terms, and we're going to add some of these. So we want to search with both the subject heading that indexes Medline content and keywords that indexes everything else or gets searched in everything else. So that might be your search for cystic fibrosis. You can search PubMed, but I copied it. And so I'm going to now put it in my search document. And then you could continue to build this here. I think it's called mucoviscidosis, something like that. And then you'll build your second concept, exercise or exercises, and at some point you're going to say any limits you applied, the date you ran it, and the number of results that you got. So if you are in a circumstance where you need to capture your searches, that's the way to do it. I don't like to try to edit it in this little box. I like to copy it, paste it into my Word document, and do my editing there. Now, in order for this to be truly reproducible, you need to have parentheses around your search concepts. I think I spelled this wrong. And then it is truly reproducible. So if we copied this and submitted it in our literature search file, we would paste it and it would run. No errors, and it's working just fine. So that's one way that I capture my searches. I think that's a Vishor Brahmer class. I can't speak to his methods of type 1 and type 2 errors. I'm sorry. So that's something that he does. So this is PubMed in a nutshell. It's so useful. It's so valuable. It's my #1 stop for all things biomedical literature. It's so fun to use once you get some practice. And in fact, that's my last slide, which is practice. It comes with time. I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I'm learning something new still every day. And PubMed is trying to keep up with the times. So they are trying to make improvements. They take your feedback seriously. So I really love it. I hope you learned something new today. Field tag TW is text word, and it's searching most of the words that you'll find in the record. So TW is text word. If we look at the results here, it's searching pretty much everything you're going to see on this page, which is the abstract, if there is one, author supplied keywords, and the other index terms. There is a list of tags. I go to it from the FAQ and user guide, and then I just look for field tags because it's really far down the page. And it's right here, search field tags. So let me put a link in the chat. Putting my email here too, just in case you want to reach out to me later. Here's the list of field tags. Look for the heading, search field tags. Someone's asking about clinical queries and its relation to search hedges. I don't really use clinical queries, and I see that you're saying McMaster's doesn't really either. They've changed it a lot since COVID. I'll show you clinical queries. And I don't find it very useful. So under Find, there's a clinical queries tool. You can look for clinical studies. We'll do the same thing here. And so we're getting 486 results that are clinical studies for cystic fibrosis and exercise, but you can filter through that for different types of what they call evidence-based medicine. So therapy, clinical prediction guides, diagnosis, etiology, and prognosis. We could look up colorectal cancer. We could do prognosis, click search. And then some of the things that they changed since 2020 was adding a filter category for COVID-19. But I really don't use it very much, so I can't speak to its utility. I think some clinical people may use it more often just to find quick evidence. You're welcome. This was my first attempt at a PubMed workshop, so I know I jumped around a little bit, but I think there's value and utility in all of it. I'll stick around for questions. Otherwise, I will stop the recording and wish you all a good day and encourage you to reach out to me if you need help. Let me stop the recording first.